In the quiet town of Abilene, Texas, a chilling scene unfolded on the night of February 4th, 2007. 13-year-old Paris Bennett was on the phone with a 911 operator, his voice trembling as he reported a horrific emergency involving his 4-year-old sister, Ella. The operator, sensing the urgency, begged him to start CPR, guiding him through the steps to try and revive the little girl. "Come on, you can do this," the operator urged, her tone desperate yet calm, but Paris hesitated, refusing at first, claiming it was too late. What the operator didn't know was that Paris was harboring a dark, unimaginable secret, one that would shatter lives and reveal a hidden side to this seemingly ordinary boy. Just 5 hours earlier, life in the Bennett household had seemed perfectly normal. Ella, a bubbly toddler with endless energy, shared a close bond with her older brother. They were inseparable, like two peas in a pod. Paris, the protective big brother, would often watch over her as she slept, his gaze filled with what appeared to be pure affection. Ella, in turn, idolized him, mimicking his every move and trusting him completely. Their single mother, Charity Bennett, worked tirelessly to provide for them, cherishing the harmony in their small family. But that evening, everything shifted into a nightmare. Charity was at work, pulling a double shift at a local sports bar during the Super Bowl frenzy. She had hired a babysitter to watch the kids, but the sitter left early after Paris convinced her that their mom was on her way home soon, and that he could handle things on his own. It was a lie, one that set the stage for tragedy. At 11:42 p.m., the call came in. Paris sounded distraught, but as the operator pressed him to act, he finally agreed to perform CPR, or so he said. He counted out the compressions aloud, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yet when first responders arrived, they found Ella lifeless, face down on the floor, with no evidence that any life-saving efforts had been made. Paris had been faking it all along, his actions a cold deception that masked the truth. He had no intention of saving his sister, because he was the one who had ended her life. To understand how this horror came to be, we must rewind to the beginning of Paris's story. It started in 1993, when Charity, a young woman facing immense challenges, gave birth to her son. His father had suffered a devastating psychological breakdown before Paris was even born, leaving Charity to navigate motherhood alone. With minimal support from her own mother, Kyla, she poured her heart into raising Paris, determined to give him the stable, loving home she had lacked in her own childhood. By 1999, 6-year-old Paris was already showing signs of exceptional intelligence. His IQ tested at an astonishing 141, placing him in the genius range. He thrived in school, charming teachers and peers alike with his quick wit and polite demeanor. To Charity, he was her perfect little boy, and together they formed an unbreakable duo, overcoming the odds stacked against them. Life continued to evolve, bringing unexpected joys. 4 years after Paris's birth, Charity discovered she was pregnant again. On April 12, 2002, baby Ella entered the world, completing their family. Charity vividly recalled the moment she placed the newborn in Paris's arms. He stared down at her with wide eyes, a massive grin spreading across his face. "Oh mama, she's beautiful," he exclaimed, his voice filled with genuine delight. From that day forward, the siblings' relationship blossomed. Ella was the spark of the family, outgoing, feisty, and full of life, capable of brightening any room with her infectious laughter. Paris, by contrast, was more reserved, preferring solitary activities like reading intricate books or sketching detailed drawings. Yet he embraced his role as big brother with apparent enthusiasm. He doted on Ella, picking out her outfits each morning, and playing games that made her giggle uncontrollably. "This is Paris Bennett reporting live from Ella's ball pit," he'd announce in mock seriousness, while Ella toddled around, beaming with adoration. She followed him everywhere, copying his habits and declaring him her hero. As a single mother of two, Charity's days were a whirlwind of responsibility. She juggled 2 waitressing jobs to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. The financial strain was constant, but her devotion never wavered. Every spare moment was spent with her children, creating memories filled with love and laughter. Despite the hardships, their home felt like a sanctuary, a place where bonds grew stronger amid the chaos of daily life. But on that fateful Super Bowl Sunday, in 2007, the illusion shattered. The bar where Charity worked was overflowing with rowdy fans, cheers echoing as touchdowns were scored. She focused on her tables, counting down the hours until she could return to her kids. Suddenly, police officers entered the establishment, their expressions grave. They pulled her aside, informing her that her daughter had been hurt. Panic surged through her veins. "Take me to Ella now," she demanded, her voice cracking. The drive home was agonizing, her mind swirling with terrifying possibilities. As they approached, The sight that greeted her was straight out of a horror film. Yellow caution tape cordoned off her house, flashing lights from police cars illuminated the street, and a crowd of neighbors and reporters had gathered. The air was thick with tension, and Charity's heart pounded as she pushed forward, desperate for answers. Finally, the officers broke the devastating news. Ella was dead. The words hit like a physical blow. Charity watched in numb horror as her daughter's tiny body was carried out in a body bag, zipped up to her chin, with traces of blood visible. She collapsed to the ground, screams of apology tearing from her throat. "I'm sorry I wasn't there," she wailed, the weight of guilt and grief crushing her. In that moment of utter despair, she turned to the detectives. "Where's my son? What happened to Paris?" They assured her he was safe at the police station, waiting for her. Relief washed over her briefly, but as she climbed into the squad car, an eerie unease settled in. The officer's silence was deafening, and a familiar dread crept up, echoes of a tragedy from her own past that she had tried so hard to escape. Charity's childhood had been marred by violence and suspicion. Born into a wealthy family in Cobb County, Georgia, in the 1970s, she was the daughter of James and Kyla Bennett, who ran a successful trucking business handling national shipping. On the surface, they lived a life of luxury, but beneath it, their marriage was a storm of arguments and resentment. By 1980, when Charity was 6, her parents divorced amid bitter disputes. Shockingly, just months later, on March 9, they impulsively remarried in Las Vegas, sparking a fleeting hope for reconciliation. But joy was short-lived. On March 11, James was found dead in their home, riddled with 3 precise gunshot wounds, to the head, heart, and back. It was an execution-style killing, and fingers immediately pointed at Kyla. Investigators uncovered motives. The remarriage had reinstated Kyla in James's will, granting her control of the multi-million-dollar empire. Rumors flew about organized crime connections, or a hired hit, with whispers that Kyla had inquired about paying $50,000 for the deed. She admitted to asking, but claimed it was mere curiosity. Arrested and tried, Kyla faced a grueling 11-day trial. Despite the circumstantial evidence, the jury acquitted her, and she walked free, inheriting everything. The true killer was never identified, the weapon never found. For young Charity, the aftermath was hellish. Classmates tormented her. "Your mommy killed your daddy," they'd sneer, their words like daggers. At home, Kyla dove into excess, parties, alcohol, drugs, while managing the business, leaving Charity feeling invisible and unloved. The trauma festered. Charity excelled in school, graduating with honors, but internally, she battled demons. At 18, she turned to drugs to numb the pain, sinking into addiction for 4 years. Finally, she clawed her way out, getting clean and earning a degree in family development psychology. Pregnancy with Paris became her turning point, a chance to build the family she craved. Ella's arrival amplified that hope. Yet the scars from her father's murder lingered, straining her relationship with Kyla and casting a shadow over her life. Now, decades later, that shadow loomed larger than ever. Arriving at the police station after Ella's death, Charity rushed to embrace Paris, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so glad you're okay," she sobbed, clinging to him. But he stood rigid, his arms limp at his sides. No hug in return, no tears for his sister. The coldness chilled her to the bone. As detectives delved deeper, the truth emerged. That night, after sending the babysitter away, Paris had lured Ella into her bedroom under the pretense of a game. What followed was unimaginable. He stabbed her 17 times with a kitchen knife, the attack so brutal it left her unrecognizable. His motive, a calculated plan to punish his mother for her perceived neglect, using Ella as the instrument of revenge. He had researched ways to kill efficiently, drawing from horror movies and his sharp intellect. Confronted by Charity later that night, Paris dropped the facade. "I don't believe you anymore. I think you killed your sister on purpose," she said, her voice trembling. His response was chilling, a laugh, followed by "Y'all are so ****ing stupid." The boy she thought she knew vanished, replaced by a remorseless figure. Reflecting on Paris's upbringing, Charity searched for signs she might have missed. He had always been the model child, gifted, quiet, artistic. Sibling squabbles occurred, like any family. "Paris, what is your problem?" she'd scold during rough play. But 95% of the time, they were harmonious. Never had she imagined this capacity for evil. Ella's funeral on February 10th was a somber affair, the church filled with mourners paying tribute to the spirited girl who dreamed of being a singer. She was a pistol, always speaking her mind, one eulogist shared, voices cracking with emotion. The town reeled in disbelief, gossip swirling about Paris's influences, books, video games, and blaming Charity for allowing them. Who bought those games? Who raised him? People whispered cruelly in stores, their judgments piercing her already broken heart. Torn between her children, Charity grappled with impossible grief. Paris, diagnosed as a sociopath via the psychopath checklist youth version, showed no remorse. Your son is a sociopath, the assessor warned. As the trial loomed, Charity navigated a minefield, advocating for Ella's justice while being Paris's mother. In court, she sat in the middle, refusing to pick sides. Ultimately, she chose accountability for Paris, pushing for psychiatric help rather than leniency. On August 15, 2007, Paris pleaded guilty to capital murder in juvenile court, receiving the maximum 40-year sentence. Charity visited him, vowing, "I'll always love you and be the best mother I can," but forgiveness came with boundaries. She would never excuse his actions. Determined to break the cycle of tragedy, from her father's unsolved murder to Ella's death, Charity channeled her pain into purpose. "I'm tired of history repeating itself," she declared. Honoring a promise made to Ella's memory, she founded the Ella Foundation, sharing their story to prevent violence and advocate for children's mental health. Through speaking engagements and support programs, she helps families spot warning signs and seek intervention early. It won't bring Ella back, but it keeps her alive. By transforming her anguish into action, she offers hope to others, ensuring Ella's light continues to guide those lost in darkness, breaking the chains of generational trauma once and for all.